Something very bad is about to happen in Venezuela, and if Maduro has any sense, he should be shaking in his boots. As we speak, the US is gathering a massive military force in the Caribbean that has one single target: Nicolas Maduro. Aircraft carriers, American bombers, and much more are on their way. If Maduro is not careful, the buildup could spell the end of his regime. So, what's happening? We'll start with the aircraft carrier. Right now, USS Gerald R. Ford is making its way to Venezuelan coast. This comes just a day after President Trump announced that he's looking at land strikes inside the country. Take a listen.
The next step in this war on cartels, and are you considering strikes on land?
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
What we're witnessing is truly the end of the Democratic Party as we've known it. And even some Democrats are now saying that out loud. You can see it in their interviews. I watched one last night. All this is directly related to the Democrats' shutdown show. Why? Because just like they decided to save their own skin, that they had to endorse the Marxist Mandami in an unprecedented move, they have also decided they had to shut down the government in an unprecedented move, no matter.
Hey everyone, this is Monday's Situation Update. So here's what's happening out there. Trump is expected to sign national emergency connected over to election, the coming elections that's happening. The United States is going into a little bit of disarray. You can kind of feel that, that energy rising. The military's out there. What's really concerning people is it's coming out more and more slowly. The Democratic Party is controlling the government shutdown. Now, this is going to be a huge, gigantic, pivotal moment because around 42 million American people that rely on food stamps, they're not going to get their food stamps, and that's going to create chaos. And this was what was planned by the Democratic Party behind the scenes. That's connected over to the Podesta plan to create civil unrest, to blame Trump, to blame the military, to try to divide the military. I've been talking about this. So this is all connected to food stamps. 41 million, 42 million people that's going to be without food that rely on government assistance. Then at the same time, the reports are coming out for November. On the second week of November, there's not going to be any payments for the military due to the Democratic government shutdown of what they're doing. So now you're beginning to see why people are going to get upset. How the Democrats are trying to create mutiny, trying to get soldiers angry, trying to create these events of where there's going to be these riots, that they're really trying to stage, trying to create. So we're inside of this moment because Trump is also signing the national emergency that's connected over to elections that is coming up, going back to maybe perhaps paper ballots, but he's going to add some new rules to the United States elections. So this is what everybody's upset about inside mainstream media. They're saying Trump is trying to steal the elections. Trump is changing the elections. But what's going on with Venezuela is actually connected over to the elections, and behind the scenes, like I've been telling you, where the Dominion machines were created, the offices, different places that a lot of the computer tech corporations, companies that were hacking these servers, working directly with Dominion, from Serbia, from the Dominion, all the way to Venezuela, over to Florida, people inside of Cuba, and then all the way up into Colorado. I had given you the columns that people were arrested, and these people were brought into the United States, and then some of them were brought in for protection into the United States from Serbia. So these election interference that's happening, Trump has the evidence. There's interference from Venezuela, from Serbia, directly from Dominion, but they're sitting on that. All that information will eventually come out. But right now they're sitting on all of that, and that's part of the reason that Trump is going after Venezuela. Because Venezuela, the computer text, the operations that they had, that they were stealing elections, they were meddling in different elections inside of South America, Middle America, inside of the United States, inside of different places with these Serbian operations. Also, and it's connected to China, the CCP. So that's why Trump is going after the regions over in Venezuela. And this is all kind of connected in that way. It's over this interference, because for a foreign power, foreign entities, for them to be part of swaying the United States elections, election interference, through the United States military, that's like a Pearl Harbor attack. That's the way they consider it. So this attack on the United States that happened through stolen elections, election fraud, these operations, how it's being exposed, this is also connected to the real operations that was running with it. This is the deep state that was stealing the elections, all of their operations. Now the white hats military, like I've been telling you, a lot of people have been telling you, the United States military was also running operations to let the deep state try to steal the elections. The military was letting them steal the operations because those were military sting operations. So 2020, the elections was given to Biden. The deep state took those elections, but the military was watching the whole time through different operations. So that's why they know what was going on everywhere. Different countries, the elections that were still... Like I said, later on, there's a lot of countries that are going to come together against the stolen elections. Once Trump exposes, gives all the information, Department of Justice, even with the DOD, when everything comes out that there was stolen election connected over to different countries, to China, Venezuela, now other countries are going to jump on board, and they're going to create this united front that to show that there are stolen elections that's connected over to world globalist operations, banking operations, connected to this deep state power and connected to major intelligence agencies around the world. So you're watching these stages that I told you was going to be set. That's going to happen. And I was saying that this was going to happen a long time ago, that Trump was going to sign executive orders that's going to change the way we vote, the way elections are going to be controlled, and then eventually everything's going to come out. So this stuff that's happening in Venezuela, it's connected to a lot of things that Trump is after. Foremost, you have to understand the drug trade inside of Venezuela, all the banking operations there. It's connected over to Colombia. It's connected to the distribution drug trade into to the southern regions of South America. And Venezuela is controlling that operations, a large part of it, the financial operations, and then also distribution points that go all the way across the world into the Netherlands, all the way into Africa, into China, the drug trade. So as you know, most of you know that Trump doesn't do any drugs. He doesn't drink alcohol. He's really, really against drugs. So this is what Trump really wants to do, is to bring down the world drug trade. And I was giving you these columns to tell you that this is going to happen. Before anybody was really talking about it, I said Trump, the military are already running operations inside of Mexico, south of these Mexican countries. There's a United States soldiers down there doing a lot of training. There was some training going on over in Colorado, that they were training the Mexican army also to take on the cartels. these old training, and I told you that this was eventually all going to unfold, that Trump is going after the cartels. Now you hear Trump is going, that Trump is going after Venezuela. And it's the first time for a long time that the United States military is bringing down a huge, gigantic, different fleets of naval operations connected to the military. Military troops are down there. And there's just a huge deployment that's beginning with all of these, different ships, submarines, helicopters. And I'll give you a little list up here. So it's getting serious to where Trump is now talking about strikes inside of Venezuela, land strikes. At the same time, Venezuela, Maduro said people have now been arrested connected to CIA intelligence that were trying to overthrow the government, to try to create a coup, and these people were arrested. So whatever's happening behind the scenes, I'm sure the military operations are talking about who was captured, But the bigger story is the CIA military intelligence on the dark side of these operations. They're the people who was running the drug trade. They're the one who established this huge, gigantic drug trade ring that goes all the way to China. Even the stuff that's coming from China. And I've told you many stories about what happened with the Vietnam War. The war was actually over the heroin and trade. That's what it was really about, was that heroin trade. Later on, to be connected to pharmaceutical companies, connected to medicine, to be connected to world trade operations, connected to Hong Kong, where all the monies will be going, and then all the way back to London, Barclays banks. And the Vatican is a huge part of these operations, the Vatican, because the Vatican, the Jesuits' operations, since the late 1600s, they've been capturing universities, they've been infiltrating the world systems. By the 1800s, 1900s, the Jesuits, the secret society, they began to infiltrate the full institutions of the world, from the government sectors over to, to the judicial systems, over to world leaders, like I said, to the biggest universities and the world, to the banking systems. And the Jesuits were the huge, gigantic scholars, these people. And the old Jesuit story is big. It connects back to the Khazarians that came out of Ukraine. These people, the Khazars, they made an old agreement with the Roman Empire. Then they became the Jewish people. They took on the identity. Later on, that's be the Ashkenazi Jews. Then they go across Europe into Poland. Then they go down south of Germany. They leave families behind, people. And they do this long trek in the 1500s, late 1400s, 1500s. Then they end up over in Spain, the Ashkenazis, these Jews, and they end up in Spain. Now Spain is going to be overrun with so much Jewish people, the Ashkenazi Jews, the northern Jew people of Europe, that people don't really understand where they came from. So the Ashkenazi Jews are going to be kicked out of Spain about 1550, and then they're going to be given an offer. Okay, if you become Christians, if you renounce, your Jewish societies, your Jewish people, if you renounce it and you come into Christianity, now you can stay inside of Spain. So that's where the plot unfolded to create the Jesuits. It was these old Khazarians who became the Ashkenazis that traveled across Europe, stole identities, went into Spain, stole identities. Then eventually they stole identity of the Christian identity. Then they infiltrated the Vatican also. And that's where you get where people talk about the Grey Pope that comes from the Jesuits. So these Jesuits with the Knights of Malta, with the Vatican, they created the first intelligent agencies that was collecting intelligence, running intelligence operations pedo operations through universities, blackmail operations. Back then, they were already running all of these different operations, blackmail, kickbacks, paying off people, this whole money laundering operations. They were creating this huge, gigantic web around the world. So that web is connected to OSS, it's connected to Alan Dulles, it's connected to the CIA, it's connected to the drug trade inside of Middle America, into South America, how the CIA began running operations, and it's a huge construct. So Trump wants to bring that down, and Trump is initiating these operations to bring down the cartels. At the same time, we expect something to happen, a false flag event where the United States is going to get in trouble. Trump is going to get in trouble that something bad happened inside of this military operation, that something went really wrong. And then they're going to try to stop the operations. And as they stop the operations, then the CIA, the dark side of it, and the dark side, the deep state, they're still going to try to install their new president inside of Venezuela, and then to try to hide all the information that there was a lot of intelligence agencies, a lot of senators, banking systems, connected to banking systems, connected to a lot of people inside of Mexico, United States, through Europe, that were running all of these operations together with the military. So the CIA is trying to create a false flag event that we have to be really cautious of, as Trump is planning to go after the cartels. The deep state is trying to create a false flag event. So eventually everything will be sorted out. Eventually the military already knows what a lot of people are planning. They're going to let things kind of happen, because it's going to bring a lot of exposure to the full corruption system, to the coup that was connected to Obama, connected to the Democratic Party, connected to the shutting down the American government, to try to create riots, to try to create mutiny among the soldiers, the U.S. soldiers, for not getting paid. And everybody is in panic. The deep state, the cabal, what's happening in Venezuela, what's going to happen over in Colombia, what's going to happen over in Mexico. So this is all growing, these huge, gigantic operations of the storm. So don't be in panic when you see some things go wrong inside of this war against the cartels. Trump gets a little in trouble, the United States military. They're going to flip the script eventually, and then they'll let everyone know that there was an inside job by the deep state inside intelligence agencies that created this event. So that's kind of what's happening, what's going to happen. Trump signing these huge executive orders are also going to come, and then this national emergency, and then a lot of people talking right now, even in Congress, inside the Senate, even the Democratic Party, they're talking about it's the end of the Democratic Party. And this is the same thing that we've been saying the past 2 years, that this event is coming. And people are talking about this publicly. And people are really upset from the Democratic Party also, with Chucky Schumer, with the deep state, what's happening there in the United States. And
get the full situation update of this video over on Patreon. Join the channel. In this video, you get the full information of how the military is giving a warning to the 5 families, the mafia, over in New York City, and why those military communications to the mafia is very important. The arrests is very important, with the FBI, what's really happening behind the scenes, and then also a lot of other information that's connected to the full extended video. Come over to Patreon, everyone.